Today we're going to be checking out Chappell Roan and breaking down the music theory behind some of her songs. I'm a big fan of Chappell Roan. I think her album was one of my favourites from last year. I was a bit late to the party, but I have been peripherally aware of her from Pink Pony Club and Hot to Go. Okay, so right away with the Theatrics we have these sort of grand strings. That rundown on the violin reminds me a lot of that James Brown string intro that gets sampled a lot. I wonder if it's maybe a reference to that.
You sent him pictures and playlists and phone sex.
See, even though we're in a relatively slow part of the song, there's still these kind of interesting rhythms, like a triplet thing going on. And that's what I love about Chappell Roan's music, is that there's so much personality, and that's through all of these rhythms that she does in her vocal lines.
Hit it like, get it hot, make a bitch, it's a fan.
Isn't that just like one of the best tritones in pop music? So in the verses we were going E flat, C minor, A flat. What it does in the drop, which I love, that's just another great example of pop chorus songwriting. We were kind of talking about it earlier in the Taylor Swift video, where it's that use of repeated rhythms, but you change up the notes. And then go down. It's just more of these very playful rhythms that she does a lot. A very classic sort of disco bass line. You'd imagine like Chic doing that or something, where there's 3 crotchets on beats 1, 2 and 3, and then a little fun thing after that. So this one's going. A lot of very like Princey 80s jangly guitars going on as well.
Meet you for dinner at the Italian place.
So the melody there is based on the major 7th. So in the scale of the key of the song, which is D major in this instance, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the major 7. So we're hanging on that. It's kind of those extensions, again, we were talking about it in the Taylor video. It's kind of floating on top. It's a very common note in jazz as well. You get major 7 chords all over the place. Here it kind of sounds defeated, like it's not as triumphant as like we go there later, but right now we're kind of ruminating.
I'll meet you for coffee, 'cause if we have wine, you say that you want me, I know that's a lie.
It's also a really good example of just having that one rhythmical idea and just getting the most out of it. Obviously in the verses we're going. And then in the chorus we're going.
Every place leads back to you.
Minor 4 there, classic.
Say that you're sorry, I know that's a lie.
Yeah, that's a great chord progression as well in that chorus. And D, and then D7, but I think the C is also in the bass line. G, D over F sharp, E minor, A7, so it's always moving, it's always progressing.
Done this before.
Another good songwriting technique there. You've been using a certain type of chord in one section, then use a completely different chord in another. So in the middle 8 we need to go, okay, go somewhere different. The 3 chord. A bit of an underrated chord I find. So good. I think there might have been a cheeky diminished chord in there. Not getting past me. Yeah.
Someone you couldn't lose. You said we're not together, so now when we kiss
Yeah, she's just really great at constructing these sort of vocal lines that have this momentum to them, despite being a slower tempo. It's interesting enough to keep you engaged, and it's so few notes as well. And I mean, obviously the lyrics really help too. I guess it's not too dissimilar to After Midnight, where it's this descending figure. Yeah, again, just even over these ballads, there's just this really strong melodic push going on. And another great thing is the contrast between the verse and chorus. We're using fewer notes in the verses, and then in the chorus is when we break out. She did that in Coffee as well. There's this lift that happens in all these choruses. That's a great little yodel as well. Love that saturation effect on her voice. Well, that's a very classic chord progression right there as well. A flat. And then we go down to G flat, which is the flat 7 chord, D flat, which is the 4 chord, and then back to the 1. So I think that's called something like a double plagal cadence. So a regular plagal cadence is when a chord progression goes from the 4 chord to the 1 chord. Whereas a double plagal cadence is when, and stay with me here, the 4 chord of the 4 chord. So the 4 chord in this case being D flat. So what's the 4 of that? 1, 2, 3, 4 G flat. And so a plagal cadence in D flat would be, okay, so we're doing that, and then we're going, so that's a double plagal cadence if you ever hear that. Already a couple interesting things going on in that chord progression there. We're in A. Then we go to that 3 chord, which I've mentioned once or twice before now, which again, always a really nice movement to go to. And then we have another tritone jump here. We go to the G. Again, we mentioned this earlier. Another double plagal, right? Chappell Roan loves double plagal cadence, it's confirmed. It's pretty much the same melody throughout, but the chords change underneath, so it kind of recontextualizes the notes. That's what I love about the relationship between melody and harmony. One note, like that note there, that's the 1 of one chord, but it's also the, you know, it's the major 7 of another. It's also the flat 9 of another chord. I just don't think I'll ever get bored of that. She's great at like repeated fragments and repeating something enough that we kind of get it stuck in our heads and then changing it. So in that pre-chorus alone, it's like, okay, so we'll have it again. So there's this real surge in momentum as it kind of rises melodically. Ooh, what was that?
Feeling myself, it's hard. When you know that you're caught and you're getting pissed off, it's getting me up.
Reharmonization going on. Do we go to D and then C there? That's interesting. A.
When you're going through hell and you're hating yourself,
D.
I'm feeling myself, it's hard. When you know that you're caught.
I don't think I've ever noticed that before. More sort of recontextualizing stuff. I think it's just really great economy with ideas, and what I mean by that is give her like a few notes and she will like take that to its very edge, but just before the point we get bored of it, right? So she's doing that exact same section we've had earlier, except with a completely new chord progression. Again, it just gives us this sense of that we're sort of going somewhere, we're moving forward, we're not in the same place. We know that melody, we recognize it, something familiar, it's something unfamiliar. The ears want for that tension to be released. Okay, so we're in a 12/8 or 6/8 thing.
All the blinds, light every candle.
Yeah, straight away we've got something cool here. We've got the, I guess, chromatic mediant is what you might call it, when basically that chord 3 that we've mentioned before, it's usually a minor key in major scale, but this time we got G sharp major. The difference between a major chord and a minor chord is that third. Minor, major, right?
When you were before, couldn't look you in the eye. She's electric, she's in a family full of eccentrics.
So we have these strings coming in doing this obnoxious minor third thing or something. It's like very sort of bluesy. That 12/8 arpeggio thing, very sort of 60s, think of something like Brenda Lee. Had some atonal descending strings.
Everything is fine. I guess we could pretend.
Going back to the Taylor Swift video, this is kind of exactly what I was talking about in the difference between having the track made and then singing on top of it, as opposed to working out the melody and chords sort of together in tandem. Because that's a very classic songwriter type melody you'd get there. Third of F sharp, the third of the 1 chord, and then we land on the third of the 4 chord, which I think that was. It also reminds me a bit of Kill Bill by SZA. Just like all thirds, right?
Whatever you decide.
Okay, so I really like this. I made a TikTok talking about this. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about. That's the dominant 7 in the melody. So in F sharp 7, we have the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7. In a lot of pop music, the note in the melody is often the 1, 3, or 5. It's not often that it's the 7, right? It's just such a great note choice, especially in ballads. You hear it a lot in ballads.
I can't live, I can't give anymore.
Spectators of the charm, always stay in love. No other name falling off my lips.
And it's just so distinctive as well. I guess it's a very 70s thing, and it kind of always evokes that era with this sort of theatrical angle that she has. She definitely calls back to a lot of more classic songwriting. Then what are we doing there? The sort of 6th into, I mean, I don't think it's always a 6th. Such a classic sort of blues, jazz, country movement. That's the kind of idea. So on the C sharp minor, that's going between the 3rd and the 7th, the 2 most characteristic notes you could find in a chord. The 5th and the 3rd. The major 7 right there, and the 5th. Here we go. We're opening with a big sort of D flat 7 run right there. The curtains are coming up.
I know you wanted me to stay, but I can't ignore the crazy visions of me in LA.
A very theatrical melody right there.
I'm having wicked dreams of leaving Tennessee. You Santa Monica, I swear it's calling me.
Yeah, so a very great pre-chorus melody, rising pairs of thirds, right? So again, it really just contributes to the whole sort of grandiosity of it all.
And you dance at the club.
It's just something very Kate Bush almost, using those vintage hot to go synths again. The attack has sort of been rolled off slightly, so there's like a delay in when you press the note and when it sounds. 80s rock guitar solo right there on the pentatonic.
Mama, every Saturday I can hear your southern drawl 1,000 miles away.
Again, it's that verse melody, but this time with different chords. Something about that 4 chord going up to the 5, going up to the 6, this sort of rising sense. It's just more examples of sort of recontextualizing a melody and giving it even more momentum. And yeah, it just really works, particularly towards the end of a song.
I'd love if you knew you were on my mind, constant like cicadas in the summertime. Boys suck and girls I've never tried, and we both know we're getting drunk tonight.
Yeah, again, another very good verse melody. Just keeps it very simple, very short melodic range, which she kind of breaks out of towards the end, which again, just to give it that sense of movement. You may be sensing a common theme by now, which is that a lot of her songs seem to have this great momentum behind them.
Could go to hell, but we'll probably be fine.
It's a little bluesy note there. Very cool.
Baby,
more just like rising scales, kind of like the Pink Pony Club pre-chorus. Sounds like the Cranberries almost.
But I can't help what I can't help. So shame on me, shame on you.
So now we're in B flat all of a sudden. We're in D major, we're just going 1, 4, 5. And then just a sudden key change to B flat. That's really cool. And then we're just straight back in D major. Again, I had another TikTok talking about this, which basically just said, you can just change key at any point you want. Like, it doesn't just have to be in the final chorus. Like, so many great songs, just change key. It's almost just on a whim, but it really works.
We've been friends now for so many years. We've been together through the good times and the tears. I was driving across the burning desert when I spotted 6 jet planes. 'Cause I've been in love before, and I found that love was more than just holding hands. If I give.
I love those synths, so warm. His voicing's really cool too. I think there's like a major 7, maybe a major 9 going on in that G chord. And then in the A you have a 13, which is always lovely.
It's fine, it's cool. You can say that we ain't nothing, but you know the truth.
Another pretty sparse but still pretty strong melody. And again, we're hitting all of the thirds of the chords underneath. More fun Chappell rhythms. I think what's cool is that like you could take away a lot of the melody of these Chappell Roan lines and just have like the rhythms sort of notated out. And I reckon they're probably quite fun to play like on a drum or something. Or whatever it does. These rapid fire notes for like the first 75%, and then to sort of punctuate it, it's contrasted with longer notes that are sort of rising, and then we arrive at the chorus. It's relatively simple, but there's a lot of built-in tension that you might not realise. So that note is obviously the 5th of G, but where it's going, we're actually hitting the sharp 4 of G as well, so it kind of wants to go up to that 5th. You know, if I just left that hanging, you'd get annoyed. And then we're kind of doing the opposite. That note is the 3rd of A, so that's fine. And it's going up to the sus4, which is another tension note. There seems to be some like artificial vibrato going on her voice.
Who cares?
Yeah, just great use of synths as well. It sounds like a lot of analog. Super warm, works really well. Very Kate Bush, slightly detuned, which you know I like if you watch the previous video. Yeah, that belting's great. It doesn't sound like there's much auto-tune or pitch correction on it either. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you found this as interesting as I did. Despite listening to these songs so many times, I didn't realise they were quite as interesting as they were. Let me know in the comments any thoughts or questions you had about Chappell Roan's music or music theory, and let me know if there's any artists or albums you want me to cover in a future video. Thank you so much for the love on the previous video as well. As I say, there's a lot more coming, and I'll see you next time.